You want to plan out your content for the next 30 days? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I actually plan my 30 days worth of content using ChatGPT and Google Sheets, because that's essentially how I've been able to come up with ideas and ensure that I stay consistent with my social media platforms. Hi, Finny here. My name is Gloria, and let's get to it. Now, before we even get to planning content, you need to understand that there's something called content strategy. You have to identify one marketing campaign or one social media marketing campaign that you are going to run throughout a specific period of time for you to attain some specific result. For example, if you are new to content creation, your goal can be brand awareness. So you want to make people know your brand, know you exist, and essentially get to a feel of who you are through online media or through content creation. You're going to build a content strategy around that so that you can be able to market yourself very, very well. So it means you are going to choose content pillars, you're going to have to choose your content days, how you're going to be shooting your content, as well as the type of content you're going to be pushing out. Now, the first step when you're building your content strategy is figuring out how you're going to pick your simple content pillars that are going to be essential in your social media marketing as well as your content creation journey. Now, the first thing that goes here when choosing your pillars is to figure out what your values for that particular campaign are going to be. Do you want people to know you? Do you want people to know your identity? Do you want people to interact with you? That is engagement of some sort. Or do you just want to experiment and see how social media is going to be? Because it's very, very essential you have the end goal in mind before you even begin. If you're experimenting, then you need to decide how long are you going to be experimenting for? What are you experimenting with your content and your content strategy in, as well as what is the ultimate KPI that you're going to look at the end of your campaign period? And then the second thing that you need to have is your authority framework. Now, this is something that I actually came up with because it's essential when you're figuring out what are going to be the content pillars that you're going to be rotating around. Now, for me, my authority framework honestly is going to revolve around three main subsets or subtopics of what I'm going to be covering. So in this particular instance, I will have a case study, which is going to be like a client testimony of some sorts. I'm going to have a process video where I'm going to talk about how I solved a problem for a client from step one all the way to the time I completed that particular project. I am going to have a POV, which is my own point of view or my own perspective, which is essentially going to guide how people view my thought leadership as well. And then I am also going to have a tools and systems kind of content that is going to come from that one specific idea that I have. And then the third thing that is going to be really, really essential when you're choosing your content pillars is going to be the rule of one. You have to be writing or you have to be creating content to try and solve one problem with one solution and have one goal in mind. Essentially, what that means is you need to have one specific thing or one specific anchor point that you want to hit with your content. For example, if I was posting a case study about a client project I've been able to do, this case study might be a content piece that I'm releasing so that I can make a sale for a particular product that I am selling. So that means the marketing campaign, as well as the type of content that I'm going to be posting, is essentially going to lead to my sales funnel so that I can be able to convert the people who are actually going through my content to become real-time customers. Now, the first step when coming up with your content strategy is to actually figure out what you want to be sharing within a specific period of time. Now, for me, in this particular example, I'm going to use December as my period of time where I'm building my content strategy. Since this is actually a seasonal period, then I'm going to be creating content around topics that are very easy to go through and easy to digest. Say for example that what I want to do or the kind of content that I want to really cover in December is more on planning and coming down with, building up your plan for a year and something of that sort. The content pillar that I am going to really be creating content around is going to be planning. So I'm going to jump into YouTube and I am going to search planning content. So once I write planning, you can see here I am having how to plan your week, how to plan your day, planning life, project planning, strategic process, yada yada yada. It's still okay, but essentially what I want to cover are topics around what I specifically talk about, which is strategy, process, business, as well as content creation. So let's say I choose content planning, for example, as my idea. If I choose content planning, then you can see here I have content calendar, content planner, and all those ideas. Now, what essentially I'm going to jump here is to come up with a ChatGPT prompt that is going to help me figure out how I'm going to squeeze in the topics that I actually want to talk about during the period of December. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to outline what I am going to talk about. So there is content planning. So these are the ideas that I came up with, and essentially this is the kind of content that I will essentially be creating. So the second step in this particular process is jumping on ChatGPT and getting it to actually refine my ideas. So that is exactly what we're going to do. First things first, you guys need to know that I have been having a multitude of conversations with ChatGPT. So I am going to pick up from a conversation I already had with ChatGPT. Now, if I open up my patch here, I am going to go back to the conversation that I essentially had with ChatGPT very, very recently. So now I'm going to ask it to assist me to refine the ideas that I essentially have come up with for December. So the prompt that I'm going to use, do not worry, I am going to include them in the description so that you can copy and use it for yourself. So essentially that is the first prompt. Then the next thing that I am going to copy, I'm going to give it the ideas that I actually have, which I've researched on YouTube. So I'm just going to copy these ideas, and then I'm going to paste them on my ChatGPT. Here are my ideas. Now, once we've fed our data to ChatGPT, I need you guys to see exactly what it has produced for me. Now, if we jump back into my machine, you guys can be able to see that ChatGPT has essentially come up with very good ideas because it explains what the idea is. It gives me at least a concept of what I can do in my video content, as well as it gives me some hints of what I can do in that particular video. Now, if we jump into the explanation that ChatGPT gives us, I am not going to speak about all of them. Essentially, I am going to stick to probably one. So the refined concept from ChatGPT is I do a step-by-step tutorial or a beginner-friendly system for planning 2025 content all across my platforms. So some friendly titles that I could use is how to plan out your 2025. Okay, I'm gonna change that to 2026. Content planning for 2025. Notion and data, which is actually really, really good because a lot of us use Notion, and how I plan my content to use without guesswork. So once that's done, the next thing is going to be to actually test out the idea that ChatGPT has given me on my YouTube channel. So that is essentially what I'm going to do. So if we jump back into my machine, essentially what I'm going to do is I am going to copy the content piece that ChatGPT has given me, and I'm going to paste it on YouTube search, and then I'm going to see how it's going to perform for me before I even transfer it to my content calendar. So I am going to go with this content planning. Actually, I'm going to go with the first idea, which is how to plan out your 2025 content strategy. I am going to jump into my YouTube channel. You guys can see I already have extensions. By the way, if you want to use the same YouTube extensions I have included the affiliate links in the description bar down below so that you can be able to access them, because I use TubeBuddy and I also use vidIQ. Now, I'm going to paste the idea that ChatGPT has given me, and I am going to check and see how it will perform in search specifically. Once I hit search, I want to see how it's going to perform for me. You can see here the overall score. You can be able to see that vidIQ gives me a 32% overall score. So the next thing that I am going to check is going to be the keyword stats. And you can see that the least viewed video in terms of this particular content piece idea is a video that was watched 4,264 times. Now, Note that this is actually really huge views for my specific channel because I am still a small YouTuber. So what I'm going to do is I am going to copy this idea and I am going to go to my content calendar, which is essentially called by Gloria, if I'm not wrong, my content calendar, and I am going to paste this into my content calendar. Now you can see my content calendar is not actually very, how do I say it? It's not very complicated. I try to keep it as simple as possible, and I am going to jump to YouTube, and then I am going to come here and I will paste my first video, which is how to plan your 2026 content strategy, because essentially that's an idea I actually want to talk about. That is something I actually want to cover in my YouTube content. So that is it with this particular video. I'm hoping that you guys found it helpful. If you did, make sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I hope that you guys are finding these tutorials to be particularly helpful. If you are, feel free to let me know in the comment section. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you do feel like sticking around, I did do a video talking about how to actually build a startup business. So if you are thinking about beginning a business or building a business, then that video would be really, really great. But that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I am going to see you in the startup video.